Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV. I'm Andrew Sumner, and today I'm privileged to be joined by author Aisling Fowler. How are you, mate?
Hi, Andrew. I'm really good, thank you. I'm really happy to be here with you.
And I'm very pleased that you've joined us as well. I'm using the royal we, of course, but it's actually just me. But you're here to talk to us about your fantastic debut novel, out from HarperCollins, Fireborn, for which the subtitle, I believe, is 12 and the Frozen Forest. Is that right?
It is. Yes, that's right.
Now, interestingly for me, you are the second debut author in a couple of weeks I've spoken with who has also trained as a scientist. So you've got a science background, right?
I do, yeah. I have a degree in biology, and
Yeah.
I also retrained after that as a nurse. So quite kind of sciencey background, and going a bit further back at school, all of my subjects were like, I don't know why I did this to myself, but biology, chemistry, physics. Oh, yeah, super sciencey. Yeah.
So did you always have? Did you always know that becoming an author, writing is something that you were drawn to doing? Is that something that came to you during the course of pursuing biology and training as a nurse, working as a nurse, or was it always an objective for you?
Do you know, that's quite an interesting question, because I think it has always been in my mind, but it's something that I sort of lost track of for quite a long time. So when I was really quite small, like a small child, like I read a lot. I suppose that was my kind of beginning into the world of stories, just loving reading. And then somehow that kind of morphed into writing my own. And I suppose what I was writing then was fan fiction, although I never sort of heard that term when I was that age. And it was something I was really quite passionate about. I spent a lot of time doing it up until probably the age of about 13 or 14. And I guess like in my teenage years, I got a bit distracted by other things, and you get kind of new interests, and I don't know, it sounds really strange, but somewhere along the way, I kind of forgot maybe how much I enjoyed doing it, and I got out of the habit, and then I just stopped. So for years and years and years, I didn't write a word. I would have ideas still now and then. It was definitely still in the back of my mind, and now and then I'd sort of jot something down just so I didn't forget the ideas. But it wasn't actually until I was retraining as a nurse that I was really fortunate. I made a new friend who was a writer, and she asked me to read a manuscript for a book that she was working on. And it was just, it was a real sort of light bulb moment for me, to be honest, because it really reminded me that it was something I wanted to do, and also showed me that it was possible, because she and I were doing the exact same course. We had the same time pressures, the same sort of, friends that we're trying to stay in touch with, the same pressures really. But I just realized that the key to it was just prioritizing it, like carving out some time and dedicating that time to writing and trying to improve. So from then I kind of came back to it really seriously, quite suddenly, quite abruptly, I'd say. So almost from the day she gave me her book, I was like, right, I can do this. And it really kind of lit a fire under me. So it was a bit of a strange journey, not very kind of continuous, I suppose, but I've made it back to writing, and I'm super happy about it, obviously.
But I think it's tremendously inspirational, certainly for people watching this who are interested in getting into writing, developing their own writing career. It always amazes me. One of the many things I do here at Titan is on the side is that I edit some books, I edit some noir crime fiction, and it always fascinates me the journey that people have into writing. I used to be a journalist. I've never been a novelist, but I know if you speak to any journalist, you'll find 1,000 different ways that they became that. The same with novelists, and I think it's so interesting that you had such a busy and taxing job as being a nurse, something so truly important and that contributes so much to our society, but you were able to develop your creative instinct at the same time while doing that work.
It's an interesting job, as one that you're trying to combine with writing, because I was doing shift work, and shift work is horrible for a social life, but as it turns out, quite nice for writing, because a lot of my days off were sort of midweek. I'd have like a Tuesday and a Thursday off, something like that, and all of my friends and family obviously were working, because they have more regular kind of jobs. So So it really was quite easy to find time to write, because on those days there was no sort of competition with other kind of demands on my time. So that actually, the only problem with it was the lack of consistency, I suppose, because you'd have sort of a day here and a day there, but then you'd do some night shifts and be too tired on the next days off to kind of do anything. So, but on those sort of midweek days off, it was perfect for writing.
Yeah, so. I can see that. And much more fulfilling than say working in an overnight gas station doing your writing that way. You know, it's actually you're contributing and you're creating at the same time, which I think is a beautiful dynamic. Now, Aisling, what can you tell me about Fireborn?
Well, shall I give you a little summary of it?
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, everybody watching this can order a beautiful signed Forbidden Planet edition of Fireborn from the links attached to this conversation.
Oh, thanks, Andrew. So Fireborn is the story of 12, and she is a Huntling, which means she's given up her name and she's joined this place called the Hunting Lodge, which is training her how to fight the monsters that plague her world. So that's kind of the reason that everyone thinks she's there, but she's got a little bit of an ulterior motive, and it's something that's connected to quite a sort of dark event in her past, something that really still she carries with her, and it's with her on a daily basis. And at the start of the story, it's also something that keeps her quite isolated from her fellow Huntlings. So at the beginning of the story, she's quite a solitary character, but quite early on in the story, the Hunting Lodge is attacked by these monsters that plague the world. And for the first time ever, they managed to break inside the Hunting Lodge's walls. And there's a battle, I suppose. And when the attack is repelled and the dust is sort of settled, quite a terrible realization occurs, which is that a little girl is missing. And she's been kidnapped and taken away, and no one knows where she is. And 12's pretty horrified, but she quickly becomes more horrified when she realizes that the hunters, so the adults who are supposed to be protecting the Huntlings and really protecting the whole world, aren't reacting in a way that she thinks is appropriate. There's a lot of talking, but not a lot of action. And so quite impulsively, 12 decides that, if they're not doing anything, then she's going to be the one to do something. So she packs up her bag of supplies and she takes her pet squirrel, Widge, and the two of them just head out into the wilderness together. It's quite a bold decision because she's definitely not really properly prepared, but she's a little bit horrified to discover that she's not the only one who's had that idea. And on the way, she meets the lodge's stone guardian, who is this huge stone dog, just called Dog, and two other Huntlings called 5 and 6, who she's particularly displeased to see 5 because they have quite an antagonistic relationship. So the sort of the main body of the story follows this quite mismatched group on this journey through the dangerous Fang Mountains and into the frozen forest beyond, as they try and track down this little girl and bring her safely home. And they have lots of adventures, face lots of dangers. And yeah, their relationships really change as they travel together. There's also a lot of secrets that they're keeping from each other. So, and alongside that, for 12, there's a bit of an emotional journey as she kind of tries to come to terms with that dark event that I mentioned in her past, and sort of tries to reconcile that with her current life and what she would like her future to be, I suppose. So yeah, that's a not particularly succinct summary of it, but
very clear. And it Fireborn sounds so beautifully rich for a debut novel. Yeah, and your universe is so fully realized. When you first jumped into your journey of inspiration towards creating the book, what came to you first? Was it the world? Was it the society? Was it the characters? Which jumped into your head in the first instance?
Yeah, so that's actually a really easy question to answer, because it was so so definitely started with 12 herself. And this is a bit of an unexpected part of the story for me, because she was actually partly inspired by a computer game, and I don't really actually play computer games, but my husband does. And there's this game called Horizon Zero Dawn, which you probably know.
We published the comics for that at Titan.
Really?
Yeah,
right
on.
So
yeah, very familiar with that game.
Yeah, the story's just brilliant, and Aloy as the main character is so sort of vibrant and compelling. And I just loved this game. Whenever he was playing it, I would just sit and watch. And I remember sitting on the sofa and watching her, and something about Aloy I think connected a little bit with other characters that I'd like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and before her even like Xena Warrior Princess when I was quite little. And I think I suddenly thought, like, why aren't I writing characters like this? Kind of women that I really loved as a girl. Kind of, can I do that myself? And almost immediately, that was the moment that 12 sort of popped into my head. So she came not fully formed, but she came with her axes in hand, as you might expect if you know her character. And I knew that she needed those axes to fight monsters. And I know the other thing I knew is that she had this really quite sort of fiery anger inside her. And the anger was quite surprising to me. I genuinely don't know where that came from, but actually it was in kind of unpicking why she was so angry that her past kind of pulled into focus. And then it was really everything sort of unrolled from her. It was like working backwards of, why is she so angry? Maybe her family have been murdered. Why have they been murdered? Or maybe they were a member of a clan, maybe there were other clans and they don't get on because their lives are so different and they can't relate to each other. And so it kind of all kind of spread out from her like that. And then the hunting lodge came to me because I already knew that the world had monsters, and then I knew that there were these clans who didn't get on. So the hunting lodge kind of appeared as this entity that was trying to keep the peace and kind of hold back the monsters. So it's not an exaggeration to say everything sprang from 12 herself. Well, definitely the sort of the foundations, the biggest parts of the world, and then the detail kind of came a little bit later. But yeah, she kind of was the inspiration for the world, and then it was Aloy, Buffy, and Xena really who were the inspiration for her.
I mean, I don't think you can get a better set of inspirations for a female protagonist, and the fact that you've gone right back to Xena, Lucy Lawless, of course, who's I think did a whole generation of viewers a tremendous service with that character. So powerful, so indelible, and when you watch it now, so way ahead of its time.
I really agree. She's just, Xena's a brilliant character, and she's so sort of, again, for that time, I think quite a complex female character. She's strong and she's tough, but she also has that dark past. And I always was really fascinated by her relationship with Callisto as well. I thought
me too. Yeah,
incredible. So yeah, it's
beautifully drawn. Yeah,
brilliant show for women, and her relationship with Gabrielle as well is it's a great show. I need to go back and rewatch it. This is making me want to watch it again.
You're making me think the same thing. And I think as cultural touchstones, everything you've name checked, it's so appropriate for the universe you've created. But what really does speak to me is the fact that your protagonist is the prism through which you've developed the whole universe. And I think that's one of the reasons why it feels so rich and authentic, because it's not just a technical exercise about world building, which there are many, novels these days which focus around world building, but it is more of a technical exercise, and you can see that the characters being laid on afterwards. Well, you've done the exact opposite, and I think that's why it has that propulsive, emotive quality, your writing.
Thank you. I mean, that's a really kind thing to say. This is it's actually the first book I ever finished from beginning to end. So I have no other way. I have nothing else to compare it to. I've never tried to build another world so kind of extensively. So it's just the way that it came to me. But I'm glad you think it works.
And I think to hear you say that is really quite amazing, because the book is so fully formed, and you've just had such. And I think the proof of the pudding is the fact that you're being published by a major publisher, and suddenly you've done that thing that everybody wishes they could do, which is they take their first novel and they're picked up, and that novel is kind of published across a broad palette that allows a lot of people to see it. I mean, I think that's an amazing place to be.
It's been such an unexpected journey. I mean, genuinely, obviously, I never thought this was going to happen. No one, I think, starts writing a book and thinks, well, obviously this is going to be published by HarperCollins and sell into multiple territories and things. But genuinely, when I started it, I thought of it as I had some time away from work actually, and I really said to myself in quite a firm way, like, you have to finish a whole first draft, because I had this problem where I would get halfway through, which I now know is the difficult bit of a manuscript, and then probably somewhat conveniently I would have another idea that seemed much better, so I would just stop in the middle and kind of start something else. But with this book I kind of said, no, you have to get to the end, you have to finish your first draft. But it really, in my mind, was a learning exercise. I thought, I'll do the draft, I'll edit it, I'll get feedback, I'll work on it as hard as I can. But when I send it to agents, that will be the end of the story. I'll have learned as much about the process as I can, and then I can start on my real book. So to say that this is unexpected is just, yeah, it's an understatement, really. So it's incredible.
I think it's wonderful and tremendously well deserved, and I can't wait for the Forbidden Planet Massive to pick up their copies and really savor what you've achieved, which again everybody can order from the links attached to this conversation. Aisling, thanks so much for joining me. I think the book's a real achievement, and congratulations. And you must be tremendously excited for the next 6 months for publication to hit, and then to see where you go next in this amazing journey.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been such a wonderful journey so far, but the idea of actually being in shops and finding its readers is, and just, yeah, people just meeting 12. And I'm looking forward, I'm hoping I'll hear from some children at some point too, because obviously they're the audience I wrote it for. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, and my daughter, who's in her mid-20s now, was a voracious reader when she was younger, and still is now. But I was always looking for protagonists like yours for her to read.
Really?
Yeah, now absolutely. So this is right in a wheelhouse I've spent a lot of time thinking about, and I think you've delivered something truly special, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else you do with this universe.
Oh, thanks so much. There are 2 more books in the series, so they're working on them right now. Yeah.
Brilliant. And what's the second volume called, Aisling?
It is going to be called, well, I don't know if this has been announced yet, but I probably can say it's going to be called Phoenix and the Frost Palace.
Wonderful. Brilliant. I can't wait. But in the meantime, everyone should pick up 12 and the Frozen Forest, the first installment of Fireborn, which again is available right here. Aisling, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Andrew. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been wonderful chatting, and I look forward to talking to you about the next book.
Yay, thank you so much.
Take care. All the best.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV, and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.